And the 11th thing and the bonus is to be a mensch. Mensch is a Yiddish word to describe a person who is very admired, who's trusted, whose word is sought, whose opinion is sought, who is sort of like a saint, except you don't need to be dead to be a mensch. There's no higher praise for a person than to be a mensch. So let's talk about the elements of menschdom. The first is that a mensch helps people who cannot help them. A mensch is not motivated by the fact of, wow, this person is the Western regional manager for the Wall Street Journal, and if I suck up to this Wall Street Journal person, maybe I'll get some good press. This person can help me, therefore I will help them. A mensch doesn't think like that. A mensch thinks, I'll help people for the sheer pleasure of helping people. You know, a waiter can't really do much for you. I guess they could bring your food, but you know, besides that, they can't do very much. You want to see a good test for a mensch is watch how they treat waiters and waitresses and flight attendants. Because anybody can suck up to someone with a CXO level title, but it's how you treat people who cannot help you. That determines if you're a mensch. The second point is to do the right thing the right way. It is not about who can shred their corporate documents faster than Enron. It is about whether you're doing things right and you're doing the right way. It is about morality. There is a bright, hard, fast line. You know, I think that when you're growing up, there is a very hard, fast, bright line taught to you by your parents. But then as you get more and more into the business world, it tends to become more and more relative. You know, we're not as bad as Enron, right? That's the attitude. That attitude is completely wrong. A mensch draws a hard, fast line. And the third point of being a mensch is that you desire to pay back society. That entrepreneurs are blessed. They're blessed with vision and energy and the ability to recruit, the ability to create great things. And because of that blessing, you have a moral obligation to pay back society. Ultimately, at the end of one's life, you are judged not by your market share, not whether you beat the U.S. Department of Justice Antitrust Division, not because you had the most German cars or Italian cars. You are judged by, did you make the world a better place? And so to truly be the greatest entrepreneur, you would be a mensch. You would do all the right things. You would help people who cannot help you. And you would fundamentally pay back society. You have a moral obligation to pay back society. You know, it's very difficult to raise money. And so the probability is you won't raise money. So in some sense, people may never raise money and they'll bootstrap forever. However, I think the attitude of bootstrapping, that you don't buy $800 chairs, that you don't run Super Bowl commercials, is something that should be in the DNA of a company. You should always be a bootstrapper, even if you have $10 million in the bank. And so I think, having watched the dot-com phenomena, that too much money is worse than too little. And that if you look at the great companies, they never really raised boatloads of money. You know, Yahoo didn't, Google didn't. These kinds of companies, they either, you know, who knows, looking backwards, they were either lucky and found a business model that took off right away, or they fundamentally had something that was so viral, so spreadable by evangelism that they didn't need to pour big bucks into it. So, you know, on the other hand, if you're offered venture capital, I would take it. I would take it because living off soy sauce and rice isn't that much fun. But that's for a precious few who can take the money or who can get the money. And if you do get the money, but then I suggest that you not spend it because it just warps you. And I have been warped by raising capital for Garage. We had a lot of money raised. And so it warped us. And that's one of the mistakes I made at Garage. So, to a large degree, evangelists find you. And that if you have a compelling product or service, you will attract evangelists, and they will probably start pounding on you to become evangelists for your company. So, you know, this is what's called Guy's Golden Touch. Guy's Golden Touch is whatever is gold, Guy touches, which is very different from saying whatever I touch turns to gold. So what I'm trying to say to you is, if you have a great product or service, i.e. gold, people will want to touch it. And if you have crap, then it's hard to get evangelists. So the key here is, and I could teach you the fine points of evangelism, but that would take a whole nother hour. But But, you know, the essence is create something great. You know, great companies start with a great product or service. I really believe in the concept of if you build it, they will come. Very few other VCs believe that, but I really believe that. I think I'm a product kind of guy, and I'm just a product guy trapped in a marketing body. And so that's how you get evangelists. You build something great, and if you build something great, then I can touch you and help you, you know, get the evangelist. But the fundamental thing is build something great. It's a tricky question because to a large degree, the way you find soulmates is from your existing group of friends, right? And so you groove together and you have the same vision and you like the same things. And so, you know, by nature, it's just sort of the proximity that you find these soulmates. And sometimes you're thrust together as roommates or, you know, whatever. The danger in that is that sometimes because of the proximity, you make your roommate the CTO. And then in a year, you know that this person is not a CTO anymore. This person is really sort of a entry-level programmer. But because he's your buddy or she's your buddy and they were a founder, so now you're stuck. And you know, that person feels like they have to have the word chief somewhere in their name, their title. That's the difficult part. But I think a soulmate is to a large degree about your social circle. I mean, it really is. The way I found soulmates for my companies was people I just had known for a long, long time. And it is a difficult process and a tricky process because at many points, you know, one of the hard things to do is when a soulmate is not fulfilling the function. Very difficult thing. But at that point, what you have to remember is that your responsibility is to the company. It's not to the person, it's to the company. But it's still difficult to implement that. Actually, if you want to be a venture capitalist or an entrepreneur, what you should do is you should either go to work for a large company, believe it or not, like a Procter & Gamble, where you truly learn the process of sales, or you should go to work for any, you know, kind of tech startup. Let me tell you, so what I guess I want you to do is get hands-on experience. I want you to go out there and get bludgeoned. I want you to get rejected in sales calls. The most important thing I think you could learn for an entrepreneur is how hard it is to sell stuff. Now, this means if you go to Microsoft and you have 95% market share, it might not be such a good lesson. But any kind of structured sales thing, the worst thing you can do to become an entrepreneur or to become a venture capitalist is to go into investment banking. Because if you go into investment banking, you'll get what's called Morgan Stanley disease. And Morgan Stanley disease is when I give people my business card, when I tell them where I work, they sort of, you know, they're like so impressed that I work for Morgan Stanley. And so pretty soon, at age 25, you think that you really know what's going on. And so there are people who make the position, and there are positions who make the people. And so to a large degree, if you work for an investment bank like a Morgan Stanley, after a while, you get this Morgan Stanley disease, and you really think you know what the hell's going on. And so pretty soon, you go from investment banking, then you go to work for, you know, Kleiner Perkins or something, and then now you're giving all these young entrepreneurs advice based on your 0 years of having run a company. And so that is the worst case scenario. I would never start my career as a venture capitalist or investment banker because it will fundamentally corrupt you. It will just eat your brain out. It will just, there's nothing worse you could do. I think one of the best things you could do is go to work for a startup that fails, because that's where you'll learn a lot. Oh, I wouldn't brag about it. I mean, because when you work for a startup that fails, you truly see, you know, the mistakes that are made and what you did wrong. And one of the hardest lessons I had to learn was the difference between correlation and causation. Because as they say, a rising tide floats all boats, or more accurately, what? Oh. What? Correlation and causation? Hey, I was a psych major. What can I tell you? All right, so hallelujah, kumbaya. So this correlation and causation, and you know, a rising tide floats all boats, or as they say, in a tornado, even a turkey can fly. And so many people did not realize they're turkeys. They were just in a tornado. And so that's the difficult thing. Don't be an investment banker and don't be a venture capitalist. You know, aim higher. Well, let me be crystal clear. I think experience is vastly overrated when it comes to a tech startup. I think that, and there are zero VCs who are going to agree with most of what I'm going to say now, but I think that the sweet spot for a tech entrepreneur is, shall I be ageist and racist, or just ageist or just racist? I think the sweet spot is someone in their 20s in an engineering curriculum at Stanford, MIT, Carnegie Mellon, you know, you pick a school. That's the sweet spot. And if you look at the great companies that truly changed the world, if you looked at the founding team, the first 2 or 3 employees, they were unproven, absolutely unproven. Not only were they unproven, they were clueless. They had no idea how hard it would be to do what they're going to do. And so that's why at 50, I have no desire to be a CEO anymore. I do not want to be a CEO. I will never start another company. I actually have 3 startups, Nick, Noah, and Noemi. They are 3, 9, and 11. And when they graduate college, I'm going to have 3 IPOs, you know? But so, see, when you get to be like 50, you know how hard it is to do everything. And you know how there are other important things in the world. So I think you need to start the company now when you're like this age, because you have nothing to lose and you don't know how hard it is. And once you have a lot to lose and you know how hard it is, you're not going to do it. You're going to hedge your bet. You're going to wish you went to work for Morgan Stanley. So you need to do it now. You know, when I was evangelizing Macintosh, it was 1984, so I was 30. So I really didn't know anything yet. And that was, ignorance is not only bliss, it is also empowering. So if today someone said, you know, guy, we're going to start a new company, it's going to have a new personal computer operating system, and based on your track record with Macintosh, we think you really know how to evangelize a new operating system, so we want you to become, you know, either CEO or whatever, CMO or whatever, you know, Chief Evangelist Officer, because we want you to repeat the Macintosh phenomenon of getting all this great software. There is not enough money printed to make me do that, because I know, having done it with Macintosh, how hard it would be. So you need to find someone like me who doesn't know that to do that. But I have too much knowledge. I am too smart to do something that hard. So that's why I think the great companies are with young people who don't know how hard it is. Because if you knew, you wouldn't do it.